Soto and Chad here, and we are getting into WrestleMania season, Soto. The actual WrestleMania is coming up in a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
which, some people are excited for. There's definitely some matches I'm like, I'll definitely check out. I don't know if I can sit through like 4 or 5 hours each day. I don't know what it is now because I know it's a 2 night extravaganza, but
That's wild.
it's crazy that they
That's
need it.
wild that
Well,
it's
they did that because of the COVID. But the COVID era because they couldn't have audience members. So to not put in a
Yeah.
6 7 hour one show, that's why they divided it up in a couple nights. But last year we looked at the first WrestleMania just as a nostalgic feel. Like, was it really that good? And we agreed the matches weren't good, but it wasn't meant to be. It was just the everything, the celebrities. That's it. It wasn't. There was no match quality. And then back in October, I'm like, let's just talk WrestleMania 2. Is it better than the first one? uh, it had the three cities.
Mhm.
If you were
Oh
there,
yes.
yes,
Yes.
and
Yes.
yes, the
Yes.
match qualities
Yeah.
was better, but that ain't saying much. There was a lot of shit in
No.
WrestleMania 2 and a lot of things they did wrong. They had a couple decent matches, and I do say decent. And I think we both came to the consensus that, yeah, there was a nostalgic feel, but no one's like if you're doing a top 10 WrestleMania matches, there shouldn't be anything from WrestleMania 1 or 2. I think we kind of decided on that.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
Soto,
Not that nothing comes up.
no.
Nope.
But last year, I know we both watched it and we might not remember everything, but I want to talk about WrestleMania 3. Since we're doing this in order, might as well.
Mhm.
And WrestleMania
Yeah.
3 is still considered by many one of the better ones. Maybe not the best, but one of the better ones because obviously it was still early. And after watching it, I'm like, yep. Yeah. And that's mainly because of two matches. Looking
Mhm.
back, I'm like, this is good.
Basically.
And for different reasons, these two matches are good. Because one is because of wrestling, and the other is because it was just a show. And we're going to get to that.
Mhm.
But I know it's been a while since we saw WrestleMania 3 because, again, we kind of both saw it sometime towards the end of last year. But before we
Mhm.
kind of look into some of the matches, what were your initial thoughts kind of rewatching, or maybe watching it for the first time and rewatching it now?
Yeah, I definitely have watched it a few times before. I definitely rented this from Blockbuster Video. I know that, but it really kind of felt like the first good one. I thought WrestleMania 1 and 2 were kind of whatever, but when I watched WrestleMania 3, it's definitely iconic, right? It's got well, I don't know. Didn't they say? Isn't there a debate about whether or not it's like 93,000 people or something like that that
Correct.
showed up at the
Correct. Yeah,
Pontiac
it's
Superdome? Wasn't
probably
there like
made
a
up, but yes, that is correct.
a lot of people there though? Like it was a humongous event. Obviously the main event is huge. Like there's so many iconic moments. And like you said, there's really two matches to talk about here. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're probably talking about Macho Man versus Steamboat, and then of course Hogan versus
Oh, correct.
Andre the Giant. Right? Yeah,
Anyone that knows wrestling history knows the significance of both of these matches. And yeah,
yeah.
we will definitely get to it. But to back to your earlier point, yes, WWF, I'm reading this off of Wikipedia, by the way, claimed the paid attendance was 93,173, which made it the largest crowd, or would have been, but they kind of determined the actual attendance was 78,000. But the record kind of stood until, from what I see, 1999. The largest indoor record. Let me put that,
Mhm.
rephrase that. The largest indoor record until 1999, when it was surpassed by the Pope John Paul II at the TWA Dome. That was it. That drew an audience of 104,000. So, yes, it
Oh,
was kind of a made up number by the WWF, which kind of became a running gag. But, it's wrestling. But you were right. That place was packed. They were ready.
yeah.
And yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, obviously, a lot of people, the slam heard around the world, as they said, Hogan Andre. That was the biggest moment that made what a WrestleMania moment should be, regardless of the
Hmm.
two wrestlers in the ring. Because Andre was well past his prime, and Hulk just knew how to, play up to the crowd, and it did its job. But to those who want to see a wrestling clinic, and to this day, I kind of say it's probably still one of the best WrestleMania matches ever. Yes, they go to Savage and Steamboat, which had such history behind it too. The story between
Hmm.
the two, which we'll get to. But Soto, I kind of want to quickly go through some of the other matches just to see what you remember. And there might be a couple you'll
Sure.
be like, oh yeah, but I just want to laugh. This is how unmemorable the rest of the card was. So, match one,
Hmm.
which only took 5.5 minutes, was the Can-Am Connection, which, if you don't know, that is Rick Martel, who later became the model, and Tom Zenk, who I have no fucking clue, and they defeated Bob Orton
The
and the
Z-Man.
Magnificent Morocco. Who is it?
Tom Zenk ended up becoming a jobber, I think in WCW called the Z-Man. I remember Martel, because Martel and Tito Santana ended up having a tag team,
Correct.
right?
Now that's going to come up
Yeah.
later. They formed the Strike
Yes.
Force, and yeah,
Oh,
they were
just
a great team. And then yes, they obviously split, and
so
that's when he became
generic
the
though.
model. But again, if I told you this tag team match, you'd be like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
okay, and that was it. Um, I don't remember it. Like I said, I think I just remembered. Oh yeah, I vaguely remember the Can-Am connection and like who the hell's Tom Think, and that was about it.
Tom Zenk, yeah, classic jobber,
Yeah,
basically. So, in the history of jobbers, we should do an episode once where we just talk about who's the greatest jobbers of all
Brooklyn
time.
Brawler. I don't think there's
Oh.
any better jobber outside of him. I mean, I will have to do a little
Yes.
research because again, I don't
I
have a history,
I
but
would
I
also
just
I would argue that Barry Horowitz is probably a close second, but
same guy. Isn't
that
that the same guy?
is it.
Yes.
Barry Horowitz was the guy that
Yes.
used to
Yes.
he used to slap his hand on his own back. He had like a jacket that had a big like palm print on it. He would pat his own back
All right, hold
before
on.
the
We're,
match
we're
started.
hold
But
on, hold on, hold on. We're kind of
Barry
sidetracking.
Horowitz
I
always comes
have to look this up. I have to.
the wrestling discussion. We could sidetrack. I mean,
I
come on,
know. I'm
it's
not. Yeah, no one.
we're talking about WrestleMania undercard.
Oh, not the Brooklyn Berserker. Hold on. Yes, we. Somehow we
Yeah,
got into
like
this
I have a need to know. Barry Horowitz
pushback.
was a
Oh,
different
you know what?
jobber.
No, maybe
Different
it
jobber.
was someone different. Okay,
Yeah.
Barry Horowitz was good too. Good being known as a jobber. All right, I was wrong. I was wrong. You know what? I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole too much because I know we might do actually WrestleMania weekend we'll do a live one. Anyhow, so yes. Anyhow,
Mhm,
you are correct. But second match of the night. Let's move on. Let's see if you remember
mhm.
this one. It was a singles match that ended in a double countout, our favorite during a pay per view
Oh
kind of match
God.
with
Oh, so
Billy
such a waste of time.
yeah, Billy Jack Haynes versus Hercules. Do you remember
Oh
anything about
God.
this match?
Yeah, I remember Hercules.
I remember Hercules.
That's
I'm just
about it.
talking about the match. Nope, double
No,
count out.
I don't.
Seven
I remember
that
being like kind of like the double count out thing is such a cop out, especially when you're paying for it. Come on.
and they've done that so much in the first few WrestleManias. Now,
Oh God, it comes up. Yeah.
the third match, I will be honest, I kind of remembered because of all the wrong reasons. And that is Hillbilly Jim, the Heidi Kid, and Little Beaver versus King Kong Bundy, Little Tokyo, and Lord Littlebrook. And I'm sorry for all the
Oh,
littles, but yes,
poor match.
the big guy with the two little people that ended in a disqualification because King Kong Bundy just basically squashed one of them. And
He
yes,
basically killed one of them. Like, and it was like made to like it was is quite tragic to
it
watch
made me give
him.
him a little heat. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely.
so I kind of remember this match a little bit. Like I kind of remember the outcome because I like you, I watched these tapes so often as a kid.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, again, this is 3.5 minutes that this went. So again, I should say this should not be any one of someone's favorite matches. So we're 3 matches in already, and that's where we're at.
Poor King Kong Bundy, huh? Wow, what a
Yeah.
fall.
Now the fourth match was a stipulation match. The loser must bow because it was King Harley Race versus Junkyard Dog. This should have
Oh
been
my
a
God,
great
I do
match,
remember this. Yeah.
but it was only four
What?
minutes. It should have been. I mean, with the two people involved, this should have been a good match. But
Is
as
Junkyard Dog like a good worker? Like, I feel
brawler,
like
I
Junkyard Dog's
let me
just a
rephrase this. This
gimmick.
should be, if you like brawlers, I felt like if they would have allowed these two to brawl, this should have been, they could have just let these two out. Well, then again,
Yeah.
I don't know if I loved the Junkyard Dog as a kid just because he was barking and whatnot. He was a good worker, for what I can remember. But yeah,
Was
he
he?
was not.
Is he emulate? Is his style emulated in modern times in
None
WWE?
of
Like
these
with real?
styles yet are
Okay, yeah,
we're not
yeah.
to
All right, all
savage
right.
we're not to savage steamboats because we're going to get to that, but I'm just saying the 3 or 4 matches we've talked about, no, because again, these characters would not work in modern times. It's a different kind of brawler, but I'm just saying, you got Harley Race, who's known to be a brawler fighter. You got Junkyard Dog, they just had some story going through this. But yes, 4 minutes. So again, these matches haven't the double countouts the longest match so far, Soto.
Oh, I
Uh,
know. Doesn't yeah, you said Junkyard Dog? I think he loses entirely, at least,
Correct.
right?
He
But
loses
still,
shenanigans and he doesn't
yeah,
bow, and it is what it is. I
yeah.
mean, obviously he had to get some heat back. Um,
Oh, these stories are so bad, Vince. Oh God.
5 is a tag team match, which this could have been good, I think, with the people involved, what we've seen, but it was a 4-minute match, and that's the Dream Team: Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus Beefcake before he became the Barber versus the Rougeau brothers. And the Rougeau brothers can wrestle, but 4 minutes,
Dude,
nothing happened.
Rougeau brothers like lasted a long. They had a long run.
Yeah.
And I've been watching these WrestleManias, and I've been going through these pay-per-views. The Rougeau brothers keep coming up over and over again. I never really remember him that much as a kid. Do you?
Well, I do. I remember the Rougeau brothers, and you might remember one became the Mountie. Do you remember the
Oh my
Mountie?
God! Because did he shave his mustache?
I think so.
Is that why
Yes,
he's on
yes,
record?
yes.
Oh my
He
God! Of
became
course,
the
I remember
character
the
Mountie.
Mountie.
I know. And that was I forget which one, Jacques Rougeau, but yes. No, they were definitely kind of like the Heart Foundation. They were just very good hands, and I think that's why they stuck around. But like you, yes, going through a lot of this older stuff, it's amazing. I do remember them a bit. I don't ever remember them winning tag team gold, but you just needed good workers. You put them in there because they could work with anyone.
Yeah.
They were actually,
Mhm.
from what I remember, good. But yeah,
Oh
four
no,
minutes.
they know how to do it. It's just that they're just so generic. That's all.
But the funny thing is, the Dream Team won, but this is where they break up. Greg Valentine somehow blamed Brutus Beefcake for a mix up. Dino Bravo had to come in, and they kind of pushed Brutus Beefcake aside because this is the
Yeah.
WrestleMania soda where he becomes the Barber. Because the next match is
Uh,
Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis, hair versus hair match, which Piper
well,
wins by submission.
before that, because that has some problematic things to it as well. Uh, it what was Brutus Barber Beefcake's gimmick? Is he a male dancer? Is that what this is?
Kind
Because
of
I remember
like,
picking up on that when
yeah,
I was a
kind
little
of,
kid. But he rocks fishnets in his buttocks region, man. Like he is a, I mean, he is really confident in that. And I was like, I didn't know what Brutus the Barber Beefcake's gimmick was until rewatching it now. I'm like, Beefcake. Oh my God,
yeah,
he's
there you
like
go.
a male.
You know what? Looking back, I would say yes. I would just say I hate to say it because I don't think he acted like it. He just kind of more dressed like it. Um, and
He
again,
definitely did dress like
and
it.
don't get me wrong, when I even as a teen rewatched some of the old ones, because again, I mentioned when I came along to wrestling, he was the Barber. I watching back, I kind of see the original because he was in the first WrestleMania as well. Just like, oh, different gimmick, like different look, whatever. But yes, he does look like basically a male stripper, but he never acted like it. He was just, you're
He's
right,
a
he was
beefcake.
confident. He beefcake. But
Like
yes,
Rick Rude is more of a male stripper than
oh
he is,
god,
right? I
yes,
mean,
he played
and no
that
offense to
part.
Rick Rude, but Rick Rude was way more of a like, all right, this one's for all the ladies in the house kind of a thing. But I'm pretty sure Beefcake wore like one of those bow ties,
Yep.
like on he had a bow tie, but again, it's the fishnet. It's the
Yep.
fishnet tights. Way before the Hardy Boys, whatever. Like just a
And we accepted
pioneer.
it as wrestling fans. We just accepted, like, all right, this is his what he does. This is
I
his
just
life.
never got it. Like, I mean, when I was a kid and started watching Brutus, he had the shears,
Correct.
and
Same.
that was it. There was always the threat that he was going to give somebody a haircut. And as a little kid, I was like, "Hey, that's cool," but I never like. I close my eyes and try to think about a Brutus Beefcake promo, and I can't think of a promo that was fire or something like that.
No, he was
I
definitely
just
more mid card, lower mid
it
card.
was
I
just
would
over.
say he was over. The gimmick, because anytime because obviously in that era they were facing jobbers. That was what we saw a lot of, unless you were on pay per views. And yes, he would snip a
Mhm.
couple people's hair. Um, he came known. We saw the was it the barbershop, which obviously infamously we only remember because of the Shawn Michaels Marty Jannetty split.
Oh,
And that's
classic.
why I remember it. Correct, it happened on there. So, and he later became obviously in real life, but then in show Hogan's friend, and I think that's why he kind of stuck around a little bit more as well. He followed him to WCW and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that friendship helped him get jobs and stay relevant. No, he was definitely over. People loved it because of the gimmick. Because again, it's a gimmick. That's what 80s were about. These characters, over the top characters. And this WrestleMania,
Yeah,
when he became the
cartoon
Barber,
characters.
and now that you've
Mhm.
kind of watched some more shows, because after this he feuded with the Honky Tonk Man for the title
Yep.
after which we'll get to later. And yeah, so
Mhm.
he was in like the mid title scene a little bit. He never was going to do the top prize, but again, his matches have always been all right. Again, a decent hand. I'm not going to say great hand, but he tried his best. He was more of submission. But yeah, the fans just loved him, and I think it just worked. The barber gimmick worked for him and just took him to higher places than he was instead of the fishnet
Mhm.
stockings.
Brutus
Um,
the Barber Beat gimmick. It's all alliteration too. It all flows really well. But again, the fishnet tights at my age, I'm just like, okay, here we go.
so the next match I feel like was a good, decent match. I just don't remember too much outside of the finale. It was a 6-man tag. It was Danny Davis, dangerous
Oh
Danny
wait, whoa,
Davis.
wait, before we
Oh,
before we go there though, before we go to Dangerous Danny from Dover, New Hampshire, which always gets me, the Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
hair versus hair match.
Yep. What about it? What do you want me? It was
Well, I mean, it was really Piper's retirement match? Was that a thing?
well, he won, so he didn't have to retire.
Ah, okay, yeah, and then
Oh,
because
well,
Adrian
on
Adonis
Wikipedia,
was
did
kind
it
of
was that a
controversial a
stipulation
little bit.
that he had to retire? I'm honestly
Thought
asking because
so.
it's been a while
I
since.
thought it was gonna be like his last match or something like that. Because when I grew up, I was well past watching
Oh,
Roddy
well,
Piper.
you know what? Well,
Anymore.
here is the thing. I mean, so I forgot I read this earlier. I was going to bring this up. After
Yeah,
this WrestleMania, he did disappear for a while, so I think they're trying to throw it in. He went to film a couple movies. They Live, and I forget what the second one
great movie.
was. Yeah, Hell Comes to Frogtown, and They Live. I'm now reading this, and
He
he
did
was
come
got
back, and he came back with like long hair and shit.
he
Yeah,
came
I
back at
remember
WrestleMania
watching.
5 for Piper's Pit.
Yes,
So
yes,
the
thank
three
you.
he was
Yes,
gone for. I'm now just looking at this, but yeah. So
Brother Love and something Downey Jr. Something.
yeah,
I don't know. He
I
was like a conservative right wing guy from back in the day. But we'll cover that when we get to that WrestleMania.
oh yeah, but yeah. So again, he wasn't gonna he was leaving, but he was gonna retire, and maybe he was gonna lose, and then Adonis like, nah, let me cut my hair, and I think the whole
Mhm.
barber thing it just worked out. But yeah, Piper did go away for a couple of years because I don't think it was in WrestleMania 4. Yeah, he wasn't. So,
No,
but anyhow, the next match, probably the longest match of the night so far. 9 minutes. But yeah, Danny Davis and the Hart Foundation versus Tito Santana and the
Davis
Bulldogs.
and Danny Davis. Danny Davis he had a little bit of a run during this time too.
Oh,
So
the gimmick was that ref. He was actually that's how they set him up. He was a ref that helped the Hart Foundation. That's why you saw them paired with them a lot in like the very first Survivor Series as well.
Mhm.
And Jimmy Hart. But yeah, he was the crooked ref, and then that's why he became a wrestler. And then all the faces wanted to basically beat the crap out of him because of it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mhm.
this was his run, and I think he just had connections. Did you say he was from Dover, New Hampshire? Is that legit?
Yes.
I did
Every
not know
time he was
this.
coming down, they're like, "From Dover, New Hampshire, Dirty Dan," or whatever the fuck. And so every time they announced him, I would be like, "Dover, New Hampshire. I
I had no
lived
clue.
there, and also the birthplace of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles." So just
That's
FYI for
true.
everybody.
I did not know that, or I just didn't hear that and pay attention. I do remember Danny Davis. I don't remember much, but I do remember him a little bit as a kid, and this is why he was just, yeah. This his era is almost done. So yeah, 7 matches.
It
So
really is.
7 matches, and we don't remember. And this is just again, we watched this last year, but that just tells you WrestleMania 3 is loved, but again, only for a couple of reasons, and we're gonna get to
Well, the
that.
undercard sucks. Like the undercard, the mid card leaves a lot to be desired.
But there's
You know,
been
we'll get
later
to obviously
WrestleManias
the
which
other
had
card.
top to bottom are a lot more. And that's when
Of
people go back
course.
to this, people just talk about how great a WrestleMania. I'm like, yes, for 2 reasons. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well,
outside of
because
that,
you're
unless you're a Barber fan, which I was, then him returning the Barber, which they could have done on like the next Saturday night show, whatnot. No one's gonna remember that because I didn't. I was like, oh, this is happening. Oh, I just forgot when he turned. I know eventually, but yeah, let me ask you if you remember this match. A 3.5 minute match where Butch Reed
yeah.
defeated Coco Beware. Do you remember?
I remember Coco Beware coming out to the match because of his bird, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all I remember. And yeah,
So the
Butch Reed.
ninth, yeah. Yeah, so again, I mean, I know remember Coco Beware. I remember Butch Reed a little bit. I don't really remember much about any matches these guys had outside of Coco Beware being dropped on his head by Taker when you get to that Survivor Series, by the way. Taker's
Oh,
first.
poor Coco.
Oh, yeah, it was brutal. But so the 10th or ninth match, 8 matches in, ninth match, finally, Soto, we get to talk about this. Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage. The longest match
Hmm.
of the night, 14 and a half minutes. Um,
Oh yeah,
a
by far
year
best match.
close to a year long feud, and they kind of recapped it a little bit. Savage taking out Steamboat, putting the bell to his throat with 3 like elbow drops on it. But
Hmm.
this match, Soto, like it was just so well crafted, and everyone knows the story if you know wrestling. Savage wrote out pages and pages of moves and moves, and just one spot to the
That's
next.
amazing.
And he
That's
that's how
amazing.
he used to work out the whole thing. And we've talked about this.
Mhm.
Steamboat might be like one guy who's never turned heel. Yeah, I can't think of it. I didn't
I
follow his
can't.
WCW stuff, so I don't know. But I feel like he
I'll
just
research, but I can't imagine. He was just so he had the look, he had the wrestling style. I think his career. We talked about it with WWE. It got kind of fucked up a little bit between him and Vince. Um, I loved his fucking walk up song. Like his entrance theme song was fucking badass. Um, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. We talked about it earlier about making fun of people not having the wrestling styles these guys back in the day. But Steamboat is among one of the people that nowadays the new generation is trying to emulate as far as workers. I mean, and this match right here, I think of what I'm reading, there were 19 counts in this entire match, which is freaking crazy in 14 minutes. By the way, that's like high speed action. Because I've watched a lot of the newer stuff that makes it good too. Is that they know how to milk the drama of a 2 count, and guys kicking out of finishers and shit like that. That's what makes these things epic because we're not spoiling it for anybody, but if you're 5 years old and listening to us, which I'm sorry, wrestling is fake. And so
what?
anything that can be, I know, right? Anything that can be unpredictable is just awesome. And this match, even rewatching it, translates now to how technically sound it is and everything. It's just really like, I don't know, maybe I'll be surprised, but I don't think that there's a better Macho Man match than this one in his entire career for the rest of his career.
I'm trying to think. I really am. And
Iconic.
as
I
I'm
mean, like
going,
I could close my eyes and picture him doing that elbow drop on Steamboat. I know exactly the framing. I know exactly everything. Like it just felt so raw and real and iconic. Like if I could get a poster of him just dropping that elbow mid-flight on Steamboat, that's got to be one of the best shots in the history of wrestling, right?
oh, him doing elbow drop on anyone. But yeah, I mean, just it was a thing of beauty. But no, I can't think of a better Savage match because he had some which had more story and history, which we'll get to eventually. The him and Hogan match, and I think that was Hogan's best match. Him and Savage. Savage brought out the best in Hogan. That was just from what I remember. I have not got there yet, by the way, but I just feel like that happened. And then his match with Flair. Savage and Flair had like a match at WrestleMania 8. It was like a
Oh
title first,
yeah,
which
okay.
was good. But
Yep.
again, I don't know what's better this because again, Savage
Yeah,
was a great
Letison.
heel. Savage was an
Yeah.
awesome heel. I think
Mhm.
you and that's why it worked. And yeah, I think people remember the Flair match more so because of what happened afterwards. Um, all right, but and Steamboat was like we talked about, just the best face. So I think that's why just this dynamic worked, and for it to end Soto on a small package. I think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Really think about that. We just talked about 2 counts and finishers and all this close calls, which nowadays they go way above and beyond like the false endings. For it to
Oh
quickly
my
just
god,
be like,
constantly.
the drama of like, oh, they're gonna kick out. That sometimes when it happens, like, oh wait, oh this is the end, okay. But yeah, for Steamboat, just the quick roll up and the 3, just where it happened, like
Yeah.
so they still put in that shock value. Because I'll be honest with you, Soto, what is Steamboat's finishing move? Because I don't know it. Every match
I
I've
don't know.
seen is
I know he's
I
I
don't
know
think
he
he
has
has
fucking
one.
karate chops like fucking Ric
Oh,
Flair
he,
does.
he could,
Like
but that's not a
he's got the
finishing move.
chops, but those are not a finishing move. No, those are just like for crowd appeal, but I have no fucking idea what the Steamboat's fucking finisher is. I just know he's a goddamn good wrestler.
Yes, he is.
Um, and we'll talk about Bret Hart as we talk about these things because I have a lot of new opinions about Bret Hart as I've started to like, and now that I'm older and I'm rewatching stuff, like my appreciation for guys like Steamboat and Bret Hart has gone way higher than when I was younger.
And I know you stopped watching wrestling after a while. Current stuff. I don't know if you know this. So I don't know when this was. I want to say WrestleMania late 20s, like 27, 28, 29. I don't know the exact number. I can look it up. But do you remember that movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke?
Of course.
Okay, there was supposed to be a feud with Mickey Rourke and Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho was
What?
calling it. Well, just hold on. Let me hear. Because Mickey Rourke was, because of the movie, and Chris Jericho was supposed to start making fun of him, and they were going to have kind of a fight match. I say fight match because I don't think, but then Mickey Rourke got nominated, and the movie companies, studios did not want him wrestling and possibly hurting himself, so they had to change the match because the
Oh,
wrestler's very good about like old school stuff. So it ended up being Jericho versus, I gotta remember this, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Superfly Snuka, and Roddy Piper. A 1-on-3 handicap match. Elimination style handicap match. All right.
in the late in
2000.
2019,
So all these
2020.
guys, yeah. So it would,
Oh,
because again, this wasn't never going to be the main, even with him and Mickey Rourke. And Mickey Rourke ended up being in their corner and did one quick punch spot on Jericho. Because obviously they wanted to build it. But anyhow, yeah, Roddy Piper and Snuka at that age, yes, nostalgia, but no offense, they were very well past their prime, guts hanging out. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I
no.
a good, but it was fun. And then it was Steamboat and Jericho, and that they were the last two because again, elimination style. And the crowd was getting into it. Your Steamboat was like 60, and people were amazed. They actually had a one-on-one match the next pay-per-view. That's how much the fans wanted it, and they willed it in. Like they were giving
Wow.
him the "you still got it" and Jericho did end up winning. That was kind of always going to be the
Right.
finish to make it
Sure.
work. But yeah, the other two again, Piper and Snuka. I obviously loved them younger, but they did not. I don't want to say they didn't age well, but they played the hits. They lost. They weren't in shape. Steamboat was, and he was still moving. And Jericho's like, he could put some of like the new guys to shame, and he's 60. So yeah, I don't know when it happened, Soto, but
Uh,
I will tell you that
Genius.
tells you just the ability of what Steamboat can do even at a later age. And that I know he was being a bookie and doing matches for, but yeah, he just got he had a WrestleMania moment, but it's been a while, and yeah, he got another one. Just that standing ovation, like it was amazing. If you can, just kind of find that match and watch it back. But yeah, the following
I
pay
think
per
I have
view
to now.
was Jericho versus Steamboat 1-on-1. I don't even remember the end of it, but the fact that Steamboat could still go at 60 was what was
Well, isn't
amazing.
isn't Stone Cold like almost 60 years old
He
now? It's
is, and
almost
that
getting up
yeah,
there.
he's got to be. Um, because I know he came back real quick for a Kevin Owens match, and that was just them punching and brawling. But his neck,
Which was a decent little.
oh yeah,
That was
for what
it
it
was
was,
fine.
yeah. But
It was perfectly fine.
he's not coming back to wrestle a 15, 20 minute match. Stone Cold can't.
No, no.
He comes now. He just comes back there. Gets the crowd happy, a few stunners, and leaves. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
don't get me wrong. That's what wrestling is. You just honor the legends, and that's all you need to see. Anyone comes back, that's all you want. But yeah, check out that Steamboat match. But going back to the WrestleMania 3, yes, Steamboat Savage, you can just tell. They're both just great workers. They both had great minds. They mapped everything out. It was just a great match. And you're right. To this day, anybody new growing up want to be a wrestler needs to watch this. This was the first
Hmm.
great WrestleMania match, which I can say people can put this in their favorites. I will allow it. Because
Oh yeah.
I put this I consider this probably the best WrestleMania match that I've seen. You know,
I hate to be like on my high horse about this, but you do have to tell a story. Like, yeah, the promos are great, and being over is phenomenal. And now it's like I'm not saying this in any way that this is a negative thing about current wrestling because I'm actually enjoying the product for what it is. I don't watch it every Monday because I'm an adult and I just don't have time. Um, but nowadays it's like everything's like sing song along with everybody's theme songs as they walk up. It's like there's a
yeah.
lot of a lot of crowd interaction, which is awesome because you hate to have a dead crowd, but um, when you can tell a story, like when all those storylines culminate and everything like that, and you tell a physical story, like Stone Cold versus Bret Hart, and Stone Cold doesn't tap out, he's just bleeding, and then
Passes
just
out, yeah.
passes out, quote. Kayfabe, whatnot. Like the physicality tells a great story. Like the choreography tells a story. It's an up and down story. Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart, the Iron Man match, like whoever gets as many pinfalls in the hour. Um, this shit's like epic,
It is,
and
but that match is a
that
hard watch, especially with no
it is,
pinfalls for an hour.
but
It
but again, it's mastery. It's a
is.
story. It's choreographed well, and those are the ones that I remember. Personally, no, I don't remember Hillbilly Jim's fucking matches or Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which I'm sure we'll get it into other WrestleManias.
I
But
remember
yeah,
Hacksaw's first Rumble win because that was a big iconic moment for the
that,
event. That's
but
because of the
that was
event.
a physically memorable moment, if that makes sense,
Yes,
right?
no,
Like
no. I'm
you
just saying
see the moment,
that's one moment I
camera
will
angle,
always remember.
it's perfect,
Yes,
right? And so that is what it just felt cinematic with like the Savage and the Steamboat one, and it still I remember it being a great match, and then I rewatched it, and I was like, this is still an amazing fucking match. Like it's just two guys in their fucking prime, and it's at the beginning of WrestleMania. I mean, to me, this is the highlight of WrestleMania 3.
it is for the most part, and we'll get to the second one in a second. But before we go to the next two matches that we forgot,
God, there were two more.
that we
Jesus.
forgot the two matches that we anyhow. Yes, so Steamboat won the Intercontinental Championship. Great moment. He didn't have it long. It was always planned, from my understanding, for Steamboat to have a long title reign. He wasn't
Makes
supposed
sense.
to lose it to Honky Tonk as early as he did. The problem, and I say problem, I shouldn't say problem because it's not, but in Vince's mind, Ricky the Dragon just was eventually a few months in was having a baby. His baby was on the way, and he wanted to take a little time off. And Vince was
Sure.
pissed because he was the Intercontinental Champion. And that's why they took the belt off of him. That's why, if you remember, I think in maybe WrestleMania 4, he comes down with his son. Like he's holding his son.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he obviously doesn't have the belt. And
With
he
his wife
doesn't.
too.
Yeah. Um, Family's very important. And don't get me wrong, I agree. But yes, Steamboat, they had him lose it quicker to Honky Tonk Man. I don't know if Honky Tonk was always the end game, just later. It paid off because obviously the way the belt goes, and Honky Tonk, I don't want to say great reign, but just people remember it for the wrong reasons, a long reign, because he was so hated. He brought a lot of heat to that belt, which is what heel champions are
For a
supposed to do.
second, yeah, but then he fucking jobbed to the Warrior like in 2
Oh,
seconds
well,
and
do you know
fucking
the
gave him
story?
that
Do you know
belt.
the story behind that too?
I do not, but I mean, I know Warrior came out and put him on his ass. I don't think Hockey Talk even took off his
No.
jumper
So
before he got
So
pinned.
it was always planned to lose to the Warrior then. 100%. And I know we're getting sidetracked here. It was always planned. But if you
Whatever, it's
remember leading
wrestling.
up to that, he was feuding with Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Yes.
They advertised that match for SummerSlam. And they knew in the back that it was going to be was it like a hook, like a revert. I know I can't think of the term right now, but like they faked you out. They're like, we're giving you this match, but then they gave Brutus
Oh,
like
like
an
a bait and
injury.
switch.
Yeah, bait and switch. Thank you. That's what I'm looking. I'm like,
Mhm.
they bait and switch it because they knew they were not doing Brutus versus Honky Tonk at SummerSlam. That's why the week before, Ron Bass took, and I actually remember this because they made he hit Brutus so he was bleeding. The funny X sensor. I kind of remember that as a kid.
Yes, I remember that shit.
Honky Tonk was always going to lose to the Warrior at SummerSlam, and they said he
Yeah.
built up so much heat for that. He's like, let's have Warrior come out, beat me in 2 seconds, whatever it was, because Honky Tonk. He's like, I don't lose anything from this. Warrior's the red hot guy. The only thing he said is he would not take Warrior's splash on his stomach. That's why you know how Warrior always press slammed,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
Honky's
Yes.
like,
Yes.
no, I'm going to lie on his back because he didn't want to get hurt because Warrior was not
Yeah.
a great worker. He wasn't a
No.
lot, but anyhow. So yes, that
No.
was the story.
Like Goldberg, really, if you think
They
about it.
oh no, I 100% agree. You come in, play the hits,
Mhm.
5 minutes, and sometimes that is entertainment. But yeah,
Yeah.
Honky Tonk Man, he knew, and that's why they put so much heat on him and so much heat on that belt. So whenever they pass that to Ultimate Warrior, yeah, he was already over. Neither lose from it, and it's just a memorable moment for the first SummerSlam. But yeah, so Steamboat back to going full circle. Steve, because Steamboat had a child and he wanted to take a little time off. Vince says no, and Steamboat's like, well, "I'm going to do this," and excuse me, they take the belt off him, which is fuck you, Vince. Um,
Bullshit.
but yeah, let's go to the next two matches. That speaking about the Honky Tonk match, the next match he actually defeated Jake the Snake Roberts, who had Alice Cooper in his corner. Um,
Yes, yes, I remember this. Yep.
yep, I don't really remember much of this match either. I mean, two good workers. I mean, but somehow Honky Tonk went, and it doesn't even say by disqualification pinfall. So obviously, we know there's some shenanigans. Megaphone hit probably.
I'm sure Jimmy Hart distracted somebody.
Yep. Um, the second to last match, Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov with Slick in their corner. That was weird. Versus the Killer Bees by disqualification. They win by disqualification. You know, great. Always love a disqualification match. And
Why is that so high up on the card?
they put match because they knew the Savage Steamboat match would be huge, and they have to put a couple filler matches in. They actually joke. It's still a joke in WrestleMania today. The bathroom breaks because everyone knows the main event's coming. If they put Savage versus Steamboat before that, there's two reasons. One, they
That's
they,
great.
they want people in their seats, but two, they're like, what if this match overshadows that? You know, and because again,
True.
wrestling
True.
fans
True.
love the Savage. They understand it. But if we're being honest, and now we're there at the main event, Hogan Andre, though not a wrestling clinic, is the WrestleMania moment, the very first WrestleMania moment. And I'm just talking about moments that people remember. People don't remember much. They remember the slam. They don't remember that Andre put Hogan in a bear hug for like 4 minutes because he couldn't move.
I
Nothing
remember
against him.
that. I saw it.
But you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No.
When we think
Yeah.
back, what did they show? The slam. Because to me, yes, Hogan wasn't a great wrestler. He knew how to work the crowd. Andre just couldn't not move. That's why they had to do this match quick. They wanted this match. But yeah, everyone remembers Hoke slamming Andre. Which the funny thing is, Hoke has slammed Andre before, not on TV. Other people did, but yes, they put it as this is the first person to slam Andre, and everyone remembers that.
Mhm.
You see it in the history of WrestleMania. So
I mean, it's a storyline. So whatever the storyline says, you fucking believe it. And again, iconic.
yeah,
Iconic as hell. It will be shown when we watch WrestleMania 2 weeks from now, and they do like the sizzle reel for all the WrestleMania moments. You're gonna see that moment,
yeah.
like in like the reel of like WrestleMania history. WrestleMania. That's just it. So
And even though the first two WrestleManias were a success, though we talk about there's a lot of shit matches, obviously WrestleMania 3 blew them out of the water. And a story I heard years ago, and again, I don't know if this is fully true. You know, this is just a story I read uh, um, that told by different wrestlers, and the only reason I feel like it's true is the fact that Hogan and Andre got paid 500 grand for that match. And it's true, wrestlers get a big bump if they're on WrestleMania. Um,
Mhm.
they went in to get their checks. Vince McMahon said, "Hey, listen, the numbers weren't what we expected," and rips up the checks. They thought, what the fuck, man? And then he hands them both $1 million check. Like he actually
Wow.
does, yeah, because the thing was, yes, he was making it like they did lower numbers. The numbers skyrocketed. They created that event, and it's your two. Even though Andre was kind of on his way at that moment, really your two top guys at that moment. Um,
Mhm.
and so yeah, I mean, WrestleMania 3 is the first real WrestleMania. You know, the one where
Oh,
they got it
I
all, the
yeah.
spectacle, but just a quality match. But when you look back at it, so and I kind of when I rewatched this, I'm like, there was still a lot of shit in this show. And don't get me wrong, I
Oh,
know
there
not
was
every
so much
match can't
shit.
be a banger, but I'm like, no, this is really a 2 match show. It really
Dude, it's gonna get
is.
worse too. I just rewatched 5. I know we'll talk about that at a later time, but it's some
I'm
bad
almost there.
shit.
I'm almost there.
It's a
I'm,
bad
I'm almost at 5. Yeah.
the undercards on this shit, and again, I would call this the jobber area. The only reason I know jobbers so well, and you said it earlier, is because if you that's where we watched it on Saturday mornings or Saturday nights, right?
Correct.
And what do? You just watch all of our superstars like Jake the Snake and everybody just go against guys that you know are gonna lose, like no name guys. Um, we got to know these jobbers because title changes never happened on TV until you got to like the Monday Night Wars. Once Raw and Nitro started getting into their flow in the late '90s, it could be like, oh my god, like there could be a championship match to end the night, and somebody could lose it. But before that, in the '80s, at this time frame, '80s, mid '90s, like you had to buy these fucking pay-per-views in order to see this shit. And as I'm rewatching it, the lead ups to some of these matches, and we'll talk about them, they fucking suck.
Mm-hmm.
They're absolutely terrible. Iconic moments, of course, everywhere. But WrestleMania still has to, hit its stride. And as we continue to watch these, and I know I will as well, um, I'm sure it'll become obvious when it turns that corner. But it's still very much a WrestleMania 3. Like it's getting there, but it is an overly bloated ass show. And I mean, some of the pay per views in between WrestleManias that I've watched, especially in 1989, not some of the greatest wrestling I've ever seen.
No, but for some reason it was nostalgic for us. So,
Well, like most things in the 80s, yes.
all right. So before we end this, do you have any final thoughts on WrestleMania 3? Anything you want to bring up? We kind of might
No,
have missed.
no, that's pretty much it. Again, I just want to make sure that Steamboat and Macho Man gets its flowers, because that to me is some good shit. And this is like pre Bret Hart era, and well, because I know Bret Hart's part of the Hart Foundation, but
Pre-main
Bret Hart,
event. Pre-main
we've
event, Bret
talked
Hart.
about him like in battle royales and things like that, and you could just tell that he was such a fucking legend, even before he went solo. But more to come on that.
Oh, speaking of which, WrestleMania 4 is coming. Battle Royale, Bret Hart, more to come.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us today. That is WrestleMania 3. Let us know what you thought of it. Which of the two matches were your favorite? Let us know, because you should just pick Steamboat and Savage.
It should be only one answer. If you like Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant,
it's okay to say that's iconic. You're not, but it's not
okay,
a wrestling
but
match.
I'm gonna think that you're a mark, and we probably wouldn't enjoy watching wrestling in each other's presence. So that's it. Nothing, no judgment there. Just
Just a little. But do you agree with us that it's really a two-match show? Because it is. It is. But yeah, that'll do it. Until next time, get ready for WrestleMania season, folks.